Today we're going to be talking about I, Tonya and The Post, so stay tuned. Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. Everybody, I'm here with Joel. Mr. I Thought I, Tonya was a movie about a new Apple product, Cunningham.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Playing at my stupidity a little bit.
No, it's just fun.
I'm here with Matt Taco Time. Matt Taco Time. Hey, that's what I was.
Taco Time.
Yeah, Taco Time.
You know, I did a
Couldn't get your
commercial.
last name out.
I did a commercial for Taco Time once.
Oh, did you?
They didn't use any of the stuff that I was in. So I was
would you like to taco about it?
Yeah. It's so funny.
That's really sad. Well, at least you got paid.
Yeah, it's all good.
Did you get free tacos?
Nope.
No. Then
Nope, it's all
probably wasn't worthwhile.
Nope. So yeah, it's all good. But yeah, so welcome to the show, Real Review. That's what's up. Why don't you tell people how they get connected with us and all that?
Sure, I will do so. There's a couple different ways you can get connected to the podcast. This is like the get connected motion for people watching the vidcast. There you go.
Do it.
We've got our website, which is realreviewmedia.com. I'm going to do hand motions this whole way through. Definitely get connected on there. You've also got our Facebook, which is facebook.com/realreviewmedia. We've also got our Instagram and our Twitter. Both are at Real Review Media. And then we'd love to hear from you, our listeners, people that are listening to the show, thoughts, perspectives, input. You can email us at realreviewmedia@gmail.com.
Indeed.
Love to hear ya.
Yes, totally would.
We can do some tacoing about it.
Haha. Just making me hungry talking about tacos.
I know. It's like lunchtime from my perspective. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm hungry. I'm always hungry, though. It's like the Hulk. He's always angry, and I'm always hungry. So, hey, today we're going to be talking about a couple of potential Oscar contenders, right? That's kind of as what they're being pitched as.
For sure. This is kind of our catch-up Oscar buzz season for us.
And both of these two movies, hey, get this, we've both seen them, so we're going to talk about them.
It's like a first where we've seen two movies together, or not together, but both.
Yeah, at the same time, so we can both talk about it. Yeah. But let's start off with I, Tonya.
All right.
Okay, that sounds like a good deal.
That sounds like a great deal.
So, I, Tonya, the synopsis: competitive ice skater Tonya Harding rises amongst the ranks at the U.S. Figure Skating Championships, but her future in the activity is thrown into doubt when her ex-husband intervenes. Corrected by Craig Gillespie. Steve Rogers, not Captain America, wrote this. And stars Margot Robbie, Sebastian Stan, young Luke Skywalker, Allison Janney, Julianne Nicholson, and a lot of other people. And I kind of like this movie, Joel.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I liked it. And I didn't love it, but I liked it. I found enjoyment in it, but it took a little while for me to get there.
Okay,
that's kind of my initial take on it. How about you? What was your initial vibe on this?
My initial vibe on this is I was expecting more. I was expecting more drama.
Okay,
I was expecting more sort of gripping, like soul-crushing, anguishing, despair and pain and sadness.
Oh my gosh, and I never want to go into a movie with that.
I kind of never got that from the movie.
Yeah.
So, like, overall, big picture, I think I had a medium experience.
Right.
Like, I don't want to say I had a positive experience. I don't want to say I had a negative experience. There was like elements that were at play that I really liked, and then there was elements at play that really kind of subtracted from that.
Okay.
To create an overall just like kind of thing. Yeah. I think I get why it's being nominated, which we'll get maybe a little bit into, but
for sure.
But that seems a bit reaching. I'm not gonna lie. There's one or two elements of this movie that I think could potentially be Oscar worthy.
Okay.
But they're not like, for sure head of the pack, Oscar worthy type things. So
yeah. So for me, I'll start on some of the positives with me. First of all, I didn't know a lot about it going into it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know of the events. I was super young when it happened, but I was just like, I didn't really know what was some of the details that went into it. I just know Tonya Harding is a subject, whatever. Yeah. And
were you? Let me ask. Like, were you watching the Olympics? Were you watching everything was happening when all this went down? Okay,
no,
so you don't remember seeing in the news coverage?
The youngest I remember, like, actually watching Olympics was when Tara Lipinski was like at the height of her, like she won or whatever. Gold.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think that was the next one, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I just remember from this period of time that like the Winter Olympics were like the biggest thing around. I
Right.
mean, they still are pretty popular, obviously,
Yeah.
but at that time, and figure skating, for some reason in America, had really just like blown up. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and so it was such a huge scandal, I think,
Yeah.
in the eyes of American people because it was just something. It was new. It was like
Yeah.
a new thing. It was like fresh
So
in everyone's mind.
so with it, I think this is my problem was I didn't know what to expect going into it. I kind of thought it was just going to be like a rough drama,
Yeah.
kind of just like some hard stuff to get through, kind of like what you were describing it to be.
Yeah.
And it was that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be because I found it being kind of quirky in the way
Yeah.
that it was actually made.
Yeah.
Like they break the fourth wall and
A
they
ton.
actually
Yeah.
they address the camera, which at first I was like, oh, they're doing that, okay. And then later on, I appreciated it in some moments, but sometimes there's big gaps where I was like, oh, it was jarring to me when they did it because I forgot earlier that they did that. But as a whole, I thought that it was enlightening on the situation. I really enjoyed the documentary style of it, though. I liked hearing kind of the perspective. And it had some like heavy moments of some of the things that Margot was saying as Tonya. Like really talking to us as a film people. I was abused by you, and
Yeah.
like kind of almost like, wow, this is a really interesting dynamic for a movie.
Yeah.
And I found that really interesting.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this before, and I don't think I said it though in the show. I found this being one of those movies where I couldn't stop watching. Like I was really intrigued as to what was happening on screen. Where if there's something not happening, like another movie we might talk about a little bit later, like I start to wander and think about other things.
Yeah.
This one I was actually really engaged with whatever was happening.
Yeah.
And I really found enjoyment in Sebastian Stan's character, along with his like weird friend. I think his name is Sean.
Yeah, Sean Eckhart,
and
played by Paul Walter Hauser.
exactly, he was outrageous. I don't even know how they became friends.
He
but,
was. I think their relationship was
Right.
probably weirdly my favorite
Right.
part of this movie.
Right.
I almost wanted to see a movie that was just about that, with the approach of two bumbling idiots, which is horrible because this is like a real crime.
I know.
That was committed by people, but it was more interesting to see sort of the fallout of their relationship
Yeah.
versus what I've seen so many times. Not to belittle any of the stuff that happened
Right,
with
right,
Tonya
right.
Harding's character and the horrible abuses that she went through in her life.
Yeah.
But there was just because of the fact that, and I haven't talked about my positives yet, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but because of the fact that it was kind of going for like a dark comedy, their relationship appealed to me a lot
Yeah.
in that vein because it was almost like a dark comedic
Yeah,
relationship.
that's true.
Whereas the relationship between Margot and Sebastian in the film, Tonya and Jeff, that was not comedic at all.
No,
you know,
it
there
was,
was, and it was like
cringy,
right? And every time
sometimes.
they tried to make like a humorous thing out of it, it felt really juxtaposed very badly to me. I'm like,
Right.
I can't laugh at like the
They were
abuse
trying to make a light
that
of
they're
it. Yeah.
yeah. So sorry.
No,
I don't know
you're
if you-
fine.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of falls in line with what I was feeling as far as some of the negatives are concerned. Just that
Yeah.
same type of thing. I felt like the dark comedy element of them, of Sean and Jeff, I did enjoy that, and it had some really good comedic moments. And then between Jeff and Tonya, I was cringing a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like I was like, ugh, and then they'd throw a joke in there. I'm like,
Yeah.
it doesn't really feel appropriate as far as that's concerned. But I liked it because it had me engaged the whole time. I would have made different choices as a filmmaker, sure.
Yeah.
But I was really engaged with it. Negatively, I don't have a ton to say other than it was quirky filmmaking.
Right.
You have interview style. Then you have like in the midst of them recalling the events, breaking the fourth wall, and then you have this like the dark humor that doesn't necessarily work in all parts of the movie.
Yeah.
But acting was so good,
Agreed.
so good.
Overall.
Yes.
So this was a Neon Studio film, which they've done a lot of. They've done a lot of films that are a little bit. They try for things, and I think one of the things that I did appreciate about this film as well is definitely with the cinematography. They really took some strong decisions and some angles and some shot choices that I was like, "Well, you're really going for it there."
Oh,
you
the
know?
ice skating scenes were really good.
Yeah, I mean, I could kind of tell at times for sure that her face had been, digitally
Right,
placed, but
I mean, for
overall.
the cinematography in
Yeah,
those moments.
but
is
overall, the cinematography was great. I thought the one shots on those, showing her doing the whole skate, was really interesting and cool. There was a couple of long takes too of like the camera was like in the house and you would see an action and then the camera would like leave the house. And then there was one in particular, like leaves the house and it goes out of the yard and then it goes down the street. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So they tried some stuff with the camera work that I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And it felt interesting. It didn't feel documentary style, which the film was weirdly. Yeah. At times you talked about, mentioned, and that I think was one of my bigger gripes. Yeah. So again, positives, acting, agreed for the most part. I thought cinematography was good for the most part. And I think the relationship between Sebastian, Jeff and Sean in the film was interesting and fun to me at times. And then as well, I will say, Tonya and her mom, the relationship as well that they had was so gripping.
And that part was cringing, but in a kind of a real way.
Right. Yeah. It felt so heartfeltly awful and like really difficult. And I really connected, not because I've been through that or something, but just like really for Tonya in those moments. And you're just like, man, the horrible stuff that she's going through, you know, even in the beginning with her dad, like just abandoning the family, and which, considering what her mom was like, I mean, maybe not that it's okay, but just saying. So overall, I mean, there was really effective moments where I felt like I was connecting with the characters, but then mixed with what you're talking about, the interview style stuff. Yeah. For the most part, it didn't work for me. I think it kind of worked at the beginning because it's like, okay, you're setting things up. But then when they kept jumping back to that fourth wall break and that interview style, I think I get what they're going for. They're really trying to show you that there's like multiple opinions and multiple perspectives to this story that maybe you haven't heard before. And they wanted to document that, but it did a disservice to the story it was trying to tell, because I kept falling out of the story every time they did that. I was like, oh, I'm now, and I think the other main reason why that did that is because as great as these people were at their acting jobs, they didn't look like, to me, the people they were portraying. I think specifically, I mean, Margot Robbie was trying to, at one point, I think, portray like a 13-year-old. And I mean, she looks like a 30-something-year-old woman, you know what I mean? And like they did their best to, like, you know, give her braces and, you know, have her dress younger and hairstyle, but she looks older. And so, and everybody felt that way. It's like everybody that I saw that was like the main cast always looked like, to me, they were at least in their late 30s, you know what I mean? And so it was really weird because they were trying to juxtapose it, and then they jumped in the future, and you can tell that they tried to age them a little bit. So maybe that's just like a makeup thing, wardrobe thing. Yeah. But it never felt, so that disconnected me. Yeah. Because it's like I'm watching a character act out these different stages of a person's life in those fourth wall breaks and in those moments. So that was, I think, a huge thing about it. And then additionally, the humor. Yeah. I think at times, we talked a little bit about that, it really did a disservice. Yeah, no, I feel you. Yeah, it distracted me from what I wanted to just be like a gripping, like difficult thing. And I don't feel like, and maybe they were going for this, I don't feel like I got much of a resolution to the overall story. I felt heartbroken at the end this is stuff that happened in real life, so it's not spoiling anything. Yeah. So when they were like, you know, you can't skate. I felt really bad for her. I was like, oh, that's like all she knows, and all she's like, all of her skills and talents and passions are there. I was like, dang. Yeah. But that was it as far as like the heaviness I felt. Other than her and her mom's relationship. Yeah, I felt bad for her. Yeah. I mean, I feel like everybody in that circumstance was probably guilty in some way. I think it's hard to know what the truth of the matter is. Yeah. Because obviously I wasn't there. I'm watching one person's portrayal of another person's interpretation of another person's explanation. For reals. You know, so it's so twice, third, four times removed. I did feel bad for the character because of the way it was portrayed. Yeah. As far as the actual impacts, for whatever reason, I don't necessarily feel like this tells me the true story of what maybe happened. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I've gotten the truth from the film. You can only take so much of what Hollywood gives you. Exactly. You know, and they're going to I mean, if you just look at the way that they do reality films, they're going to sensationalize everything to turn it into something that draws the most interest and creates the most connection for people. So overall, and I was going to mention this as well. So when I was a kid, I mean, I remember watching the videos and the portrayals and the news media, and so was probably more effective to me almost than anything, watching her kind of go through that media spiral and circus that was associated with that, because having seen that as a kid, I really connected with that and being like, oh, that's kind of dark. Can't we just let people
I don't remember any of that
deal
stuff. So
with the
that's
stuff
probably
they
why.
need to deal with? Yeah.
I was kind of like, I'm sure this is,
Yeah.
how some of that stuff went down. I didn't see it.
I think my favorite part of the movie actually was that period between, it's sad to say, but it's the heist. It's not the heist, but the job. From the period of like the job happening until basically
that's
the
because
end.
that's when like Sean really comes in like full circle, and then he gets his guys. And,
and there's just some really weird, funny humor and just stupid moments, and I'm just connecting with it. And they were doing limited fourth wall breaks at that moment.
Yeah. Yep.
I think overall, I liked that part the most. And so it was kind of like the highs and then kind of the lows at times.
No, I gotcha.
I think if I connected to the characters that they were portraying it visually better, it would have been easier. I think if they'd gotten rid of some of those fourth wall breaks and they'd just gone more straight laced with it all.
Yeah. Rate it.
So I'm giving this one. I thought a lot about it. It's kind of, man, it's right on the cusp. I'm going to give it a 79.
Okay.
I'd like to give it higher for the chances that they took with it, but it's
all good.
Yeah.
I give it an 82.
Okay.
So not much higher. I mean, I enjoyed it. So B-, but it was a little off-putting at times and jarring at times. But other than that, I thought it was okay though. I give it a lot of props for keeping me engaged, because a lot of movies can like kind of get me bored and I start wandering and I don't even know what's happening anymore. I just daydream apparently. But
I think, and this will be my last thing to say, I guess, but like I felt like if it had gone to a point, if it had kind of more straight gone at something and built more appropriately, then it would have been interesting. But it felt more cyclical and kind of like levity and darkness and levity and darkness and levity, and then there would be a sad. And I'm like, by the end, when you're getting to like the darkest moment of the story, I'm just waiting for, okay, well, when's the next joke going to come?
Right.
And so that kept me from getting to that
I gotcha.
sort of edge with it. So there you go.
Yeah. So I didn't know a lot about the story. Maybe that's why I kept engaged through
Maybe,
it.
yeah. I knew where it was all going.
Right. So anyways, so C+, right?
Yep, 79.
Okay, 82. Anything else you want to add to that? Cool.
Nope.
Let's dive into this next movie. We both got a chance to saw it, and it is The Post.
We got a chance to saw it.
Yes, we did. We saw this one. So the synopsis: a cover-up that spanned 4 U.S. presidents pushed the country's first female newspaper publisher and hard-driving editor to join an unprecedented battle between the press and the government. Directed by the man, the myth, the legend, Steven Spielberg, and stars some unknown actress named Meryl Streep, some other unknown dude named Tom Hanks. Sarah Paulson, Bob Odenkirk, Tracy Letts, Bradley Whitford, Bruce Greenwood, Matthew Rhys. I love Matthew Rhys.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people in this movie. Jesse Plemons himself.
Yep.
I was like, hey, it's Captain.
Yes.
I forget his name in the show in Black Mirror. Anyways, I thought
Breaking Bad fame.
I thought this movie was okay.
Okay.
I don't know. I was a little bummed out. I thought we had just talked about in I, Tonya how I felt engaged. This one I got bored and I started thinking about other things. But I just thought it was okay. I guess, what are your initial thoughts?
Similar. I wasn't bored, but I definitely kind of left at times going like, well, why did we have that?
Yeah.
Like, what it almost, and not to be like overly stupid about this, but it felt like almost like Much Ado About Nothing. It felt like we're making a big deal, a huge deal, out of some things that could have probably been accomplished in a very short amount of time.
Sure.
You know?
So, I don't have a lot of really stellar things to say other than, I mean, I thought it looked fine.
Yeah.
There was one scene at the beginning that I kind of was waiting for them to cut to a different angle, and it took a long time. I was like, this is weird to me. It felt weird to me. I don't know why it felt weird to me. They're talking at a table, and I was like, this is a really long take, and they're not cutting away.
Which, talking to Taylor, there's like 50.
I know. I was like, what? Okay. And anyways,
there's a lot of sitting and talking about things.
For some reason in my head, I was like, this is taking a long time.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I was laughing at how many trips people would take to just walk into a room, talk to somebody for 10 minutes.
Right.
Or like less, like 5 minutes just to leave. And I'm like, do you not have phones? Like,
right.
I know you don't have cell phones, but people have phones at the locations that they're at. Are you really going to spend an hour and a half driving out to somebody's house just so you can go blah, 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 and then leave? I mean, that's what it literally turned into at times.
I thought for the most part it looked fine. I thought the acting was really good. I like Matthew Rhys. He's kind of become one of my favorites since The Americans.
Yeah.
And him, Bob Odenkirk, is always good. He's kind of always, I just really like him.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine, but I'm going to dive into some negatives real quick because I don't.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, I guess I
had positives, but I'll get to mine later.
Yeah, you don't need to say anything, Joel. Actually, you know what? Do your positives first because I think we could spend some time on that. So go,
Cool.
What are your positives?
I think one of the biggest positives was Tom Hanks. Mm-hmm. I really liked him in this role, actually. He played a really good kind of, not stuck up, but, call it like it is,
gruff,
rough kind of leader. I thought he was really effective at the role. I did like Bob Odenkirk as well.
Yeah.
I think this wasn't super reachy for him in regards to like what his character and he's been like in other things. But I thought he did a good job and I felt like I related to him, connected to him. I think I also liked, for the most part, I felt like it all built appropriately and it felt connectable and relatable and interesting. I say interesting in the sense that the overall idea of the story and the overall way that it was presented really did make it feel like the thing that they were moving towards was important.
Right.
The big build up of this idea of this Supreme Court case about, what the media is allowed to do and where they're allowed to step, and how the government's allowed to stop them from doing that. And I thought that was interesting. I think that's about as far as I would go as positives. That kind of turns into negative as well because I felt like the film got lost.
Right.
In unnecessary details.
Right. So that brings me into my negative too because you brought it up. You felt like it was going so important. I agree. I thought it was important where they're going to with the Supreme Court and that whole decision. However, I felt like the way it was executed in the movie, I didn't feel the urgency almost. I didn't feel the intensity of that.
Right.
I kind of was like, it's happening,
know?
And
the way, a perfect example of that to me, the build-up not quite being as effective as it could be is like, you never even saw anything in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, there's nothing happened in there.
They go in there, and then the judges come in, and they're like, cut to newsroom. A month later, or whatever it is.
Exactly.
A day later, or whatever it is. It's like, well, aren't we? Where's the... And I think that was part of my problem is they spent so much time, and I believe Steven Spielberg did this on purpose, but you have to hear me on this, listeners, that I'm not attacking like what they portrayed or Meryl Streep, but they spent so much time on her story. The movie's called The Post. Right. It's about the Post and the trial and everything that they went through with the government. But a huge chunk of the movie, probably like 30% to 35% of the film, is about Meryl Streep and her two plot lines. Right. And I felt like the two plot lines she was going through were way too much for her and for her character in this film. I really only needed one plot line for her. She had two things going on, and I'm going to spoil it slightly a little bit just by talking about the plot lines. I'm not going to... Again, this is based on events. Based on actual events,
so it's how much can you really spoil?
Right, but one, they're talking about her stepping up as a leader of the Post and the role that she's filling and being a woman in that role, and that was an interesting story. But then they're also talking about the realities of burning, in a sense, or destroying the relationships that she has with friends and acquaintances because of her role as a person in portraying things as actually happening. Yeah. Yep. And I thought both of those were interesting, but it was too much to have her going down those two different paths.
Yeah, you need to focus on one.
Right. And I never knew really what story they were trying to resolve with her. It's like, because the whole film was about the Post and the paper and the trial, I'm like, why are we getting so much with her character? Right. And so I felt very like much ado about nothing. I'm like, just give me one thing. Pick a path. Say it's about the relationship she has, or it's about that she's this leader that needs to learn how to step up. Give me one or the other. But so it distracted me. Yeah, and you know
what?
Steven Spielberg said that he was going to fill out her character and add more to it.
Right. And one thing I thought was interesting too, especially after reading the synopsis, it says they really put a lot of emphasis that she's the first female newspaper publisher.
Right.
And they do visually show that maybe 2 or 3 times.
Right.
But they never directly talk about it.
Nope.
They don't address it.
I feel like this would have been much better served as literally, this could have been a follow-up film.
Yeah.
Where it's just about her struggles
Sure.
as being the first female, head
Right.
publisher. Like, do a film about just that.
Yeah.
That would probably be super successful, especially right now.
Yeah.
In our current.
Yeah, for sure.
But don't disservice the main story of the film, which I felt like was about the post. And I felt like because of that, we got less of that actual story. We got less time in the Supreme Court. We got less time of them struggling with this overall decision. It kind of just got thrown in there.
Yeah, you know what? And that's a good point too, because I was thinking about that because I've seen Darkest Hour.
Yeah.
And it focuses on Churchill primarily during the events of Dunkirk, where you have actual movie Dunkirk focusing on Dunkirk and everything that's happening at Dunkirk.
Right, exactly.
And that would make they're both great.
Yeah.
In and by themselves, both great movies.
But if they had constantly
Together,
been jumping,
right? Yeah, it probably would have been maybe muddled more so if they would have put them together. So yeah, that's a great point.
100%.
Yep.
That was kind of my biggest issue with the film, and I felt like it was like 2 good films that they tried to force to put together, and did a disservice to both of them,
right?
In a way. So, what? Any more negatives?
No, there were a couple times where I couldn't see past Meryl Streep.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And sometimes Tom Hanks even. I thought they did great for what they had, but I don't know. I was kind of like, okay, this is Tom Hanks. Like, I don't know. I had a harder time diving into that a little bit. But
I got that with Meryl Streep for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely felt Meryl Streepy. I could tell, okay, she's going to pause here and she's going to look away from the camera and she's going to do it.
Yeah. So my biggest thing was I felt like the movie just lacked intensity. It lacked urgency in my eyes. There's one scene that I really liked, and it's the first scene that we actually get to see Jesse Plemons.
Yeah.
And I thought that scene was pretty cool. I like that. It felt like, oh, this is kind of like fast paced. We got to figure this out, like kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel really any sense of urgency anywhere else in the film. I mean, I understood the importance, and I totally agree with it. I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's it for me, I guess.
Yeah. There was definitely times where certain actors portraying these characters was a bit out of place. I mean, Zach Woods, who played an attorney there. He's from The Office. He also did Silicon Valley.
That is weird. That he was only in one scene.
Yeah, I mean, he popped up. David Cross.
David Cross was that's right.
Yeah, he popped up.
I went
and
with a friend.
He has such a distinct voice,
I went with a friend. I go, hey, that's David Cross. He goes, that's not David Cross. I go, it's David Cross.
David Cross, yeah.
And he's like, oh, that is David Cross.
Yeah, I could have used a few more people that I don't know you from other things type of feel. So after a certain point, and Alison Brie was a bit random for me. She's such a big name and a lot of other things that I'm
that
you're just making her.
I was trying to figure out who that. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, it almost felt like we're just gonna chock this full of like the biggest names possible.
Yeah.
Which felt like a bit of a disservice to the
she's in some big movies this year. Allison's Disaster Artist and okay. Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, I kind of left going like I wanted to like this. I felt like the story that it was telling was interesting. I wanted to see, because they did an effective job of to me, connecting me with the idea of the importance of this.
Yeah.
That, it's important that the media is able to be the media.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, it just kind of me.
Yeah.
After I left it.
Yeah.
So
no, I gotcha.
I did I think one of my favorite parts, and it sounds really silly, but I saw a couple of people and they all commented on this. We all liked the scenes of the actual paper printing. We all liked the scenes of where
they
metal,
go vertically up.
Yeah, when they go do 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 do. I was like, I want to grab it and go, whoa.
I don't even know how that works.
Take it for a ride. Yeah,
it's visually cathartic.
It was visually cathartic. Yeah, I mean, it felt interesting. I think the moment I realized that this just wasn't going to be the film that I was hoping for, it was the big moment that. And I'm not going to spoil it, but it's kind of like big Meryl Streep, Kay's character has to make the decision. He has to do the thing. And she did make the decision, and then she took it a step further by throwing out a couple jabs.
Right.
And I'm like, where did this come from?
Right.
The entire movie, she's been very on her heels, very shy, and I was like, oh, it's because they spent most of the film talking about this other element of the relationship, and I'm like, they really did a disservice to her character by trying to put way too much in there for her. So
I didn't focus.
So
on
yeah,
anything no. What would you rate this thing?
I'm gonna give this one a B-.
Okay.
So I give it an 80. It's right around the same as I, Tonya.
Yeah,
which
I'm
is tough.
80. I'm about 83.
Okay.
So kind of B minus range too. So
Yeah.
yep.
I have not seen yet my like I wanted to win Oscar movie yet. So.
Well, Darkest Hour is my favorite one right now.
Okay, I need to see that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Darkest Hour and Disaster Artist.
Oh, Disaster Artist.
Yes.
Yeah. If that one gets nominated.
Yes.
I'm still wondering.
I enjoyed that movie. I didn't talk about it, but I enjoyed the Disaster Artist.
Well, I mean, especially after all that stuff broke about recently.
Oh, Franco, that's right.
Yeah, Franco and the sexual allegations and stuff. So we'll see.
We'll see what happens. I guess that could throw a wrench into things. But
yeah.
Anything else you want to add to the movie?
No.
Cool.
That's it.
Well, again, hey, it's been a pleasure to hang out with you guys, talk about movies. But remember, connect with us, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Real Review Media. Also YouTube. I'm going to try and get a couple of videos uploaded here this week, some trailer reactions that I've done recently. And but other than that, get connected with our page, realreviewmedia.com. Email us, realreviewmedia@gmail.com. Let us know what's up, what your favorite movies have been. And that's it. Joel, you got anything else you want to add?
It's taco time.
Taco time. Let's go eat some tacos.
Hey, you.
That sounds really good.
This.
All right. Well, hey, it's been real.
It's been real.